Hello and welcome to Beaute Espace TV. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Ajay George Varghese. He is the Managing Director of Bipha Laboratories Private Limited, a company with a legacy of almost 100 years and counting. And it is a very unique company, as it has kind of built with Ajay a huge repertoire of Ayurveda being positioned in the modern world. So there are verticals that address the cosmetic part of skincare, whereas it also, of course, continues its legacy of being therapeutic, of being a strongly research-based company. And currently, it's not only present in India, but present across over 20 countries across the world. So welcome to Beaute Espace TV, Ajay.
Thank you so much, Ritoo. Thank you.
It's really nice to have you with us today, especially given the times where everybody is struggling and we all are reflecting on holistic health. I think we have a lot to talk. So to start with, I would love to hear from you about what is it that, Bipha, as a company has done over the years. You were established in 1929 by Pappy Vaidhyan, and you had a very strong Ayurveda therapeutic legacy. So just share some key milestones over the years for the brand.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ritoo, and thanks a lot for inviting us to the show. I think it gives us immense pleasure to be on your popular show. I think Bipha, as you know, is a 90-year-old company. It's a third-generation company, and a lot lies in the history of the company than what it is today. Because if this company is getting known, it's because of what it is today. In fact, it really is because of what it was decades back. And in fact, if you probably know, Kerala is known for its Ayurveda, for its authentic legacy in Ayurveda. For the tradition of Ayurveda, and Kerala was a land where there were a lot of Ayurvedic practitioners, and it was mostly a part of its culture, and most families had an Ayurvedic doctor. So that's the kind of legacy that Kerala holds in Ayurveda. We had such a legacy as our founder was an Ayurvedic Vaidya, and of course those were the times where things were not as much as technologically advanced as now, and I think things were mostly at a rudimentary stage where basics and simple process of medical care was provided to the people. And Pappy Vaidhyan, as the founder is known, he in fact studied in a Gurukula, and he had a passion towards Ayurveda, and he really wanted to extend the goodness of Ayurveda to the masses.
Yeah. So the milestones.
Yeah. So yeah. Do I need to repeat it once again, or
no? I could hear it very clearly that you were talking about how Pappy Vaidhyan had kind of studied in a Gurukul, and from there
So essentially, that's how the company started, and he basically, the founder had two visions. One is a vision to deliver Ayurveda and to the masses. So that's essentially how the company started. Because if you know, there were a lot of ideas, and Pappy Vaidhyan stood out because of his social commitment, number one. And to get the goodness of Ayurveda to the masses was one of the vision that he had, is what we believe after 9 decades, because that made the company different. And in fact, those were the times where innovation was an unheard of term. And in fact, he was one of the few ideas who had in fact launched an Ayurvedic proprietary formulation called as Blood and Raksha, which is in fact a hematinic made from grapes or raisins primarily. So it became very popular, and it became a postnatal care kind of a formulation, and it made the company very famous. And I'm cutting the long story short because it's a long history. So we started up in a place called Kottayam, which is in the middle of Kerala, and we set up our factory there. And we started, we were one of the first companies, who have, in fact, launched an Ayurvedic tablet from a traditional formulation. That's what we are known for. And we today have a very good range of formulations in Ayurveda, which were traditional, which are today being made into a palatable tablet forms. This was done in 1970s.
Yes.
1970s to 1990s, we really expanded the range of making Ayurveda convenient. In fact, it was too early for the innovation, but I think we could establish ourselves quite well with a lot of hardships in the beginning. And 90s, we became a company which in fact, which has the largest number of such kind of formulations in Kerala. We were prescribed there. Okay. Now, our foray into into consumer healthcare or personal care was a after effect of our travel internationally, because we started looking out for exports in 90. We, personally, maybe 90s, late 90s to early 2000, first decade of 2000, we traveled a lot to understand what and how herbal products and Ayurveda was promoted, distributed, and accepted worldwide. It was a journey, not a travel, actually. It was a journey to learn and understand, which gave us a lot of insights into how the world saw Ayurveda and what is the world view of Ayurveda. And we started on with a store, because then we understood that world wanted a more consumer-oriented, consumable Ayurveda rather than a very, very medical Ayurveda. So then we started to think about what could those be, and then we came out with personal cares and care products and supplements. And we first went into Cochin Airport and started up a store there, because that's where we felt that there were a lot of people who were traveling, who were urbanized, upwardly mobile, modern. So that's when we started our first store in 2011. And today we are almost 9 years old in the consumer healthcare field, and we've learned a lot in the last 9 years. And we've in fact started on with about 40 formulations in 2 categories. We grew the whole portfolio into about 200 plus products really.
Right.
Which was quite formidable. So that's what we are today. And today we are more consumer oriented, very agile to the market, and we are very much looking at what would the customer of tomorrow need, or what would be the kind of offerings that they will need from Ayurveda, and that's exactly what we do on a regular basis. So that's been our history. That's a journey. In a short, brief level, I could possibly say there are a lot of things, but that's going to take a lot of time. Yes. And I believe this is where we are.
Okay, fantastic. So when we talk of verticals, Ajay, the trend in Ayurveda that in India I see today is that, with the companies that have huge legacies like you do, for example, Ayurveda Shala or one of those, so those guys are hardcore into wellness therapies, and, they have these clinics where you can, go and get the Vaidhachara to check you up and get a certain protocol of treatments. Himalaya on the other side is one extreme where you have this huge conglomerate, this FMCG, which is kind of almost now everywhere, omnipresent. Where do you place yourself? And what are the verticals that are, kind of your churners of your bottom lines, and then, you top it up with, maybe personal care, whatever. So what is it that, ticks for you?
See, the advantage what we probably see in us is we belong to the hardcore Ayurvedic therapeutical fraternity in Kerala. Yes. What we would be probably doing different is we are making Ayurveda more available to people from different backgrounds, basically, because Ayurveda is very vast, it's very deep. Yes. And it's a very serious science. I mean, if you really look at it, it's more lifestyle. It's a very misunderstood science too. That's what I believe, because especially in India, it's most misunderstood in India than across the world. See, it's more understood outside than in India. So that's a challenge in the country. So we all talk about Ayurveda, but we don't really know how to define it. So that's where the real challenge in this country lies. But if you really look at Ayurveda, Ayurveda is a very vast science which a normal person won't be able to understand, won't be able to digest and probably they cannot make it into digestible pieces. It's something which they don't understand. So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make it more understandable to people. So be it a formulation, be it a personal care, be it a food, be it anything what we do, we want to make Ayurveda more appealing and more accessible and more user-friendly to people. So if you ask us, that's what we're trying to do. So everything else is an expression of what we take in this process, where we might make it as personal care products, we might make it as a tablet, we might offer it as a service. So this is where we would like to place us. Now, in terms of targeting, exactly you mentioned, from one end of the spectrum of a hardcore Ayurveda company to other end of the spectrum, a company which could possibly be talking about accessible Ayurveda, daily consumption. So we are somewhere in between. We would like to hold a balance of what is authentic and what is usable. Because you cannot take the usability quotient, because that's where you can be whatever you want to be, or you can be even non-Ayurvedic to be that, or you can be a hardcore where people don't understand you. So we would want to really have the balance between both, but being authentic is where we believe we should stick on to. That's what we would like us to be, rather than being that or this. We like to be authentic, we like to be pure, and we like to be able to deliver something which people can buy and can trust.
Sure. So when we talk of the different verticals, so there's personal care where you offer a wide range of products, right? From, you've got the men's line, and, you've got edibles, and then you've got the therapeutic, products. So what are the key innovations? What are the certain innovations you would like to really, talk about when it comes to your brand?
I guess innovation is the basic foundation of the brand, because right from 1929, I believe that's a time when the word innovation wasn't even coined. But that's one line which we feel that has been something that has been consistent with the company or the brand or the philosophy of this entire, organization. So being innovative is what we believe is the reason or the rationale of this organization, rather than being, compliant or being not. I wouldn't say compliant, being conformist or conformative to the whole industry. So that has led us to always think differently, act differently, and also helped us to create products which are different. So one root philosophy, what we always take within when we think from within the company, is to be different. So being different is what we always try to be. So we don't emulate, we don't copy, number one. But we take good benchmarks while we go about doing whatever we do. So those benchmarks starts becoming our standards, and those are the standards whom we always like to, exceed or to beat. That's what we do. In terms of innovations, I believe it's right from the first tablet in Ayurveda, in Kashaya tablet, not the first Ayurvedic tablet, the first Ayurvedic Kashaya tablet in Kerala, to probably, creating formulation is a passion for us. So, the recent one which we've done is, in Kerala, we have this Dahashamini, which is actually a concoction of herbs, all right? I'm talking about very simple innovations. Sure. Which is normally boiled in a pot of water, and you put the pot of water and then you pour it. We put it into a simple bag, a tea bag, where you can carry it anywhere, put it onto your. So that's a simple innovation what we do. So we make Ayurveda more accessible or more usable, user-friendly. That's what we do. That's the innovation. That's the basis of our innovation. Now, if you take a personal care product, we've tried every bit to make it natural as possible, because if you look at the market, there's a lot of products. Most of them claim to be that and this. But being what it is where the challenge lies. Now, for example, if you take a turmeric cream, it has got 6.5% curcumin in it, or turmeric in it, not curcumin, turmeric in it. So if you take it, it will be like a it will be as close to what you can get to turmeric paste. So if you look at most of the turmeric creams, it's all whitish. Ours is very orangish because it's got so much of turmeric. So we've tried our best to keep the authenticity as intact as possible, number one. Two, the whole philosophy is to deliver products that are different, that are authentic and pure. And try to, as much as possible, make it natural as it can be. I won't claim it like 100% natural, though there are a few products which are so. So that's been what we always try to do. So whatever we do, wherever we get into, it's always with the objective of creating products which are different.
Sure.
So that's what we try to
do. So Ajay, if you were to name the top 3 products which you feel are very, very special to your brand, it could be, you could be talking of the authenticity of the formulation, or you could be talking about the popularity that it has received from the appeal that the consumer, has given you, the attraction it has got from the consumer. Which ones would you name? There were just 3.
I would put probably what we do is, I guess we have a mix of traditional formulations, which are being manufactured in Ayurveda, which are manufactured and still in Ayurveda. For example, we make Nilabhrangadi oil, which is a classical formulation. All right. What I'm trying to say is, within even classical formulation, you can make products of difference. Because every product is a result of a process which is strictly followed. And in fact, if you look at our Nilabhrangadi, which is one of our largest selling products, it's made from Neeli Amari, which is basically indigo. And in fact, if you really look at that product, that is purple in color. Most of the Nilabhrangadi are greenish black. So this is, I would say, it's a true-blooded Nilabhrangadi where, and it's not cold, it's warm. It's not greenish black like other products. So a lot has to do with the way formulations are made. It's like water. There's so much water around us. But there could be water which is good and there could be water which is bad. But water is H2O. So it's always the origin, the purity, and the process. In Ayurveda, it's a process that matters a lot.
Yes.
So we still make our oils in bronze vessels. We still do it in a process where it's still hand, formulated. So that's where the authenticity lies, number one.
Oh.
And this is a very good product. A lot of people normally talk about it as a product to have long hair, but I think this actually helps reduce hair fall. There's a lot of miscommunication that happens in Ayurveda saying that you take it and you become different. No, it helps you maintain, manage, and to improve. And if you take it Ayurveda that way, I think you're putting Ayurveda in the right perspective, promoting it with the right claims, and providing it to a person with the right expectation level. So normally what happens is people claim long and people say that there's something wrong, but it's not anything to do with the product. It's how we promote the product. So that is, Nilabhrangadi is definitely one product. The other one I believe is we have, creams which are very, very good. I must have to really provide you one to really make you understand what can be different in the cream. A lot can be different in the cream because it's about how the texture of the cream, it's about the absorbability of the cream, it's about the feel of the cream, it's about post-application, about the absorption,
yes,
and the post-application, either it could be too oily or it could be too. So a cream is not a cream. A cream is really a real complex formulation. So we have creams of red sandalwood, and we have creams of sandalwood and saffron also. And saffron we take from Kashmir, and sandalwood it comes from Marayur, which is in fact where we'll find the purest form of sandalwood oil anywhere in India. And so that's how we create each of our product. We create it from the origin and we take it to the level of making it a product which a consumer can consume. So what runs through the process is from the source to the consumer, everything is fixed, controlled, assured, and delivered. So it's a very special product that way. So that's one category of products which I believe is doing very well with us. The third product is we have Kumkumadi oil also. I mean, there are definitely a lot of manufacturers for that. Ours is quite, I would say it's quite premium, but again, see, it's still a very controlled process. There's a Kumkumadi from 30 rupees for 10 ml to 3,000 rupees for 10 ml. Right. So it's all about what goes behind making it. Now, you can make a Kumkumadi any which way you want, but making a real Kumkumadi is like, how you mine a diamond, or where you have a lot of diamonds, but then you get diamonds which are unique. So that's the kind of effort that has to go in. So we take the saffron from Kashmir, and the process is very, very controlled, and it's still made in a bronze vessel. So the process control is what matters.
Sure.
These are a couple of products which I believe are quite different. And another one more product, I would like to take one more product from the 3+ is Blood and Draksha, which was one of our first products of Bipha. It's a hematinic. It's based out of raisins, Kali Draksha, which is very black raisins. And it's fermented. It's a very, very fine formulation, which has got a very, which has got a lot of minerals, polyphenols, antioxidants. So it's like a family kind of a toner or tonic, which from a child to any aged person can take. I mean, it's a very good nutritional formulation. The reason why this product is special is this is what made Bipha. So that's exactly what we recreated after 9 decades, and now we say yes, it's a very special product.
Sure. In India, Ajay, we don't talk a lot about patents. We don't Ayurveda has been here for like years and years, and but nobody really talks about patents, about clinical studies, about documenting what Ayurveda has done. It's actually more of a for generations we've been talking about, Chyawanprash is so good for your health and building your immunity. But actually, when you look for how whether it's been documented, what is the research behind it, and then we've heard and seen that there are these when certain brands export Chyawanprash, you say, there's some government says there are heavy metals and so on. So what is the status of research at your end and patents at your end, and how do you feel that you're going to strengthen that through clinical studies and documentation?
See, I think what I think I would like to say is, the issue with patents is, like I said, Ayurveda is a very traditional science. Right. And patentable information are new information. Right. It cannot be existent information. So the difference about Ayurveda is it was one of the alternative sciences or traditional sciences which has been documented. That's exactly the reason why it has still stood thousands of years of history. Right. So making a conventional formulation patentable is difficult because the information is already existent. Right. So that's where the challenge lies. So normally in Ayurveda, what people come out with is different combinations, different processes. So there's not been much of real research, but it's been just some bit of innovation that people have done so far. Sure. But the days of patentability are not too far. But hope for patents in traditional Ayurvedic formulations, because the information is known already. But there will be a lot of research which could go into new application of herbs or new fractions of herbs. So that means that is a more deeper science where the real research needs to happen and the real documentation needs to come through too. So I think that is going to be a main area of research that happen. And tomorrow we can possibly take a fraction from maybe, I would say, indigo maybe, which could be good for coloration of hair, or maybe from saffron, maybe a fraction of a saffron, which could go into improving your skin texture. So what Western companies are doing is understanding the science, dissecting the science, taking fractions from the science and patent it. But what Ayurveda is trying to do is trying to promote Ayurveda as a whole. So this is where the difference lies, number one.
Right.
Though days of new research coming out of Ayurveda is not too far. It's already happening in the country. But a lot of people are trying to document and validate what is already known rather than trying to create new research. So I think most of Ayurveda talks about standardization and validation. I think that's not what we really require now, because we are beyond that time now, where we need to really go out and find out what we can create as new.
Right.
Different as is that what is not known. But so what we're all trying to do is trying to validate what is already known. So we're not creating new research, we're rather validating what is already known. That's where the innovation is lacking.
Right.
It's not that people don't have that. People are just trying to invest their time on something that is already known. But I think we should invest our time and resources on what is new or what is not existing.
Sure.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. That's interesting. Actually, from here, I would like to talk about, Ajay, what is it that I would like to, switch to the current times, the current challenge of COVID first, and then move on to your retail and other aspects that we need to discuss. Is that, suddenly, we faced with this pandemic, and everybody I just feel sometimes very fortunate that, I have been using certain tablets of Ayurveda and I've been consuming, certain things. And I just feel, and I've also passed it on to my children, my parents also take it. So, I sometimes feel very fortunate, that, okay, fine, I had this knowledge and maybe it's going to help me now, whereas we understand that Ayurveda is not something that can boost your immunity in a day. I mean, that's something that we understand. What do you have to say of how to contend with this COVID-19 problem, and what should have been done or what should be done now, so that through Ayurveda we can kind of come to some sort of a solution for these kind of challenges?
Yeah, it's a very relevant question, I would say, because see, I think COVID has been an eye-opener to all of us and to the whole world and to the big economies and the leaders and even to the normal citizen.
Yes.
Because I believe it is also a time where, we got time to really reflect upon what we were doing.
Yes.
And what we really were after and what we ought to be doing and where should we be heading. So in a way, it was a reset to the world. To relook on how and what and is a way forward for us. So, in a way, I believe it is a time which is shocking. It's a time where we are all undergoing a big transition or change, and I'm sure that it is going to make a lot of difference in how the world would function from now on. So, I think there's been a lot of difference. I think COVID has, in a way, shocked all of us and now had also made us think about what our priorities are. And I think one of the biggest priorities now we all believe together is health. So that is a point which is good, I would say, because health is always the important thing that we should have all focused on, but we never had time to really take care of ourselves now. So there's a lot of focus, there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of interest that is coming back to our own health and our own immunity and our own, status of health. So I think that's going to be a whole lot of focus that's going to come in the future on that. And I think even travel is going to be based on health records or, maybe. So health is going to be the most important standard in probably a short time from now. Science like Ayurveda, though have not contributed much to the treatment, I think has a lot to contribute to something in prevention. I mean, that's exactly what it should be doing and it can do. And I think that's where the focus must be on at this point. Definitely there could be possible medicines that can come out like antivirals and all. Could be possible, but then I think that needs research, that needs trials. I mean, we can't just claim that Ayurveda cures, but you need to do the clinical validation for that.
Yes.
But what Ayurveda could do immediately is to actually improve immunity, because someone was saying, it's like you can't have COVID because COVID wants you. you will only have COVID if you go and invite it from outside. So meaning disease is not going to come to you. You have to go and invite disease to come to you. So it's a way, it's your choice. So if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be immune. So I think what people could safely go ahead and do is to take products which could improve your immunity. Like there are a whole lot of them already available, already being talked about. I think those are all good things. I mean, what if you can take? I mean, that's not just good for COVID. That's good for you. That's good for your health. That's good for your immunity. So let's take it that way, so that it's more simple, less controversial, and possible to follow. You don't need medical advice. You can just take it. So that's where I think we should do. And I think, of course, cleanliness and hygiene has become the fore in all our homes, in all our families, in all our community, with our children, with everybody around us. So I think that's again getting a lot of attention. So good hygiene is good health again. Good lifestyle, clean, good lifestyle can also help, because I think this lockdown really deprived people of a lot of bad habits, or things that they thought they could not do without. I think it's also fine. So everybody had time to understand or realize that you don't need so much of things that you thought you would need. So that's all going to help shape how we live, how we communicate, how we see our future. And I think Ayurveda definitely has a role, and I'm sure that, because from what little I understood, there's been a lot of interest from abroad. I believe we've got so much more in demand interest from abroad than from India. So people are very keen, curious to understand what I must do, not to treat, but to prevent, to see that I'm not getting it. So I think that's where Ayurveda has a lot of role, and that's where probably that can play a good role. And that's where the relevance of the science lies too.
Sure. And you have also joined hands with the government of Kerala to, set up these Ayur Shield clinics. Tell us a little bit more about the Ayur Shield.
Yeah, that's in fact a very important move, which has been in fact led by the Ayurvedic fraternity in Kerala. Because as I already mentioned, Kerala government is doing a very, very good job in really containing, or controlling the spread of the disease from the beginning, because the leadership has been very transparent and very effective in managing it. Infrastructure is excellent, and I think they're taking every step, right from mental health to animal health to geriatric health to e-clinics. E-consultation has started in Kerala. And now whatever little or whatever that we see around us is actually because of people coming in from outside the state and outside the country, which is inevitable. You can't leave anybody out and say that you have it and you don't come now. The government is welcoming them. So that's been a good initiative the government took. And government wouldn't want, from what we understood, the government wouldn't want to leave any stone unturned to see that, and the entire gamut of public-private partnership is coming together. And government has already started with Ayur Raksha clinics in all the Ayurveda hospitals in the public health space. And in fact, with the help of Ayurveda fraternity, the industry and the doctor fraternity in Kerala, we have launched a program called as Ayur Shield. Right. Now, Ayur Shield is nothing but a program where we are trying to bring together close to 6,000 to 7,000 clinics in Kerala, doctors in Kerala, who could offer preventive products to improve immunity. And we have in fact adopted a common protocol of about, I would say, 80% of the products formulations being almost the same, with 20% being being decided by the doctor, and to gather the documentation that is being collected to see how effective Ayurvedic formulation has been to help reduce the incidence of this contingency, this pandemic. So this is what we are trying to do. So in which the entire fraternity stood together, sat together, talked about the possible approach, and had adopted a measure which is standard across. So there's a large process that's happening, which we believe can possibly provide us with insights, with possible approaches that, Ayurveda can, play in such a pandemic situation. This we have already done earlier on the flood also. Now this is a second such attempt, and I think it's been uh, done jointly with the government and the public and the private. So there's a large movement that is happening.
Sure. So is there you know, so in these clinics, do you give treatments or formulations and medicines to people as per their, vata, pitta, kapha, or is it that you have certain herbs that, are being kind of promoted as being good for immunity? Can you just briefly tell me how it works? Because, yeah.
Sure. Number one, let's be very clear. It's not a treatment for COVID. I mean, it's not at all treatments for COVID that we provide.
Sure.
That is left to the government to take care of the protocols that the government would like to do. This is an attempt to assure that the spread is contained through better immunity. So 80% of the formulations which are being provided through these clinics and by the doctors are broadly standardized. And that's where I said 20% can be determined by the doctor. So that's where the personal medication approach of Ayurveda comes in play. So Ayurveda cannot be like the general approach in anything. Ayurveda is a very personalized medicine system. So that's where 80% we've taken formulations from classical Ayurveda, traditional Ayurveda, which could help improve, combat the attack or improve immunity. Whereas 20% is left to the doctor to determine, as per the condition of the patient, they can adopt formulations which they think is right. But the good thing is, all these documents are going to go into a repository or database where it could be analyzed, and some documentation can be generated about the broader outcome. I wouldn't call it a clinical trial of how or what was the result of the people who have adopted this approach.
Sure.
That's what we're doing.
Any formulations that you would like to name which are are popular in this kind of line of treatment?
Yeah. I think primarily we are using Sudarshanam tablet, which is in fact a very traditional kashaya, which was Sudarshanam kashayam, which has got Tinospora cordifolia in it, and also Sweta chirata, which is Kiryat, which is Giloy, I think that's how they call it in the north. Yeah. So that is one of the formulations which I used. The second one is Vilvadi Guliga, which is actually a very big. It is, in fact, Vilvadi was given in Kerala and across India for even poison, removal of poison. So Vilvadi is a very big detoxification tablet. It's a classical Ayurvedic formulation. Then there is the Shamula Kadithram, which is actually something that helps improve your respiratory health, the upper respiratory health. So the Shamula Kadithram, these are all from the classical text.
Right.
And then we have Indukandam Kashayam, which is again another formulation which is good for prevention and combating such kind of conditions. We have Chyavanaprach, which again is going to help improve immunity. We have Arishta of Amla. I mean, it's like a Amla which is fermented, like, and which can be consumed by children and by adults. Yeah. So Amla Arishta. So it's like Asava, as it's called in the northern system. Then, turmeric, ashwagandha, vasaka, these kind of formulations are also provided. So it's a complete, I would say, basket of formulations, but all towards either reduce the incidence or improve immunity. So that's been the objective of that.
Thank you. So, so going back to the company now, we just would like to understand that you have a very omni-channel approach when it comes to distributing the products, and which is very interesting. And what is obviously in these times online would have been generated much more than retail. Retail is almost closed all across India. So what are the lessons how did you plan your retail presence? You have nearly 16 stores. You're also present across so many airports, like in Calcutta, Ahmedabad. I've personally seen you. So what is it that you did when you were planning your retail strategy, and what percentage of your business comes from retail stores versus, online?
See, I think retail was, in fact, the larger presence we had. We had about 20 stores in March.
Sure.
So today, I think hardly a few stores are operational. Maybe about only 10 to 15% of the stores are right now operational.
Yeah.
So that's been a definite change that we had not anticipated, and now we're facing it. But of course, I think what we have already done is we are creating new channels of approach, and I think we are definitely building up on the online presence, which fortunately we had all the while, but in fact it was contributing only about 10 to 15% of our sales. Today it has to take 60% of our business, not less than 60% of the business, which is a challenge. But of course, that's an opportunity too. I mean, let's take it that way. I mean, one way you can be sad about it, the other way, look at the new opportunity of reaching people. So what you're trying to do through retail outlet is to reach people. What you've already done is reaching people. Now, what you're trying to do is reach the same set of people through a different approach. Right. So we are getting into new alliances also. We are getting into most of the marketplaces in India, which we were always talking to, but now I think we're going in very, very aggressive. And I think things are happening because we already had a brand presence. We have a good portfolio. And especially since we have a portfolio which includes both healthcare and personal care and foods. So the categories can be huge. I mean, we can be present in many categories in India. Right. Because most other brands are either in healthcare or in personal care. That's true. We are holistic. We can offer lifestyle support. We can offer the entire, approaches what a person should take in having a very natural Ayurvedic kind of a lifestyle. So that's what we're trying to do. We're also setting up e-commerce, in presence. We already have Bipha in various online platforms internationally as well. We had, in fact, have got it in 2 East European countries. Now we're in talks with companies in the US and the UK. Malaysia, we've already started our store, and in the Middle East too. So all this has disrupted business. I would want to really be upfront on that. But it will create new opportunities, and as long as the human race exists, there is always the need to take care of health and for good products, and I think the connect will always happen. There could be short-term interruptions and disruptions, but that's all part of a journey that we are all on, and we'll have to take new avatars, new approaches, and ways to go forward. So that's exactly what we're doing, and we were working harder than what we were doing. So, in fact, all throughout the lockout, we were working very hard. And in fact, a very interesting perspective learning which we took out of the lockdown was to create, because we launched a sanitizer which was price controlled. Yes. And suddenly we had a product which we had to sell at 50 rupees. But we did it. And then we started understanding that there are a lot of products required by a lot of different people at a lot of different levels. So the opportunity exists everywhere. It is not only at the top, at the premium. It offers at the mid-range. It offers at the low price range. And everybody needs something. And, you can create good products as you're creating for the premium stage also on the bottom of the pyramid. And that's where a huge opportunity exists. Right. So we're excited. Actually speaking, we're very excited because now we've learned a lot of new things. So we're quite excited to do new things. So not that we've left anything what we're doing, but we're doing a lot more new things than what we've done in the last 6 months. Yeah. So we've explored, discovered new people, new target audience. So I mean, it's fun. It's exciting actually.
Fantastic. So also you are into spas and wellness centers. You have your presence there. So do you see that part of the business growing in the next 2 years? Is that going to also be a part of your focus?
100%. That's what I said. See, we see ourselves as a solution providing company, than as a product company, than as a personal care company, than as a healthcare company, than as a medicine company. We would like to be a service provider in Ayurveda, which, once we start engaging with the customer, could offer a whole lot more solutions to the customer who would like to follow an Ayurvedic lifestyle, a lifestyle which is based on Ayurveda or based on nature, based on knowledge. So every offering that we create will be around this offering, the solution. So when we are opening a center, we are only trying to extend our expertise into that. But the underlying thing, what we always try to do is provide people with products, services, or offerings which are holistic, which are authentic, which are as pure as it is possible, which is a very big challenge. It's easy to make a product, it's easy to offer a service, but to provide something that's very authentic is where the tighter line, that's a difficult thing. To make a product of excellence is a very difficult job, because that's where you need to take a pain, the passion, and the energy of creating something. But it's not normally, like, it won't give you a good return, but it gives you satisfaction, a pleasure, a sense of happiness that you're able to provide something that's different to each customer. And each customer is special to us. And each customer is important to us, because they are the ones who really motivate us to create things for them. A lot of people appreciate what is good. So that's, I guess, the biggest fulfillment you get out of these kind of businesses. So I think that's what excites us too.
So what kind of presence would you be targeting with the spa and wellness centers? Any targets in mind for them?
See, we are we've started a center now here in Kerala, and in fact, we are converting one of our, putting up a 45-room property, which we already had, into a wellness, health and wellness center in Tekadi, near, because we believe there's going to be a huge resurgence in interest towards holistic therapies.
Right.
Post-COVID, once travel is normalized, I guess there's going to be a lot of people interest into Ayurveda and Ayurvedic treatments and holistic approaches. Yes. So we definitely feel that there's going to be good scope for these kind of services in the near future. So as long as travel normalizes, I believe that we could expect a lot more interest into India, into the holistic healthcare practices of India.
Sure. And you have international presence across the spectrum.
Yeah.
What is it that kind of works for you in the international market? Is it the personal care products or the therapeutic ones? How does it work? Do you also give online, consultations to your clients abroad? How does it work for you?
See, if you take the international markets, I've been in the international markets right from 1998, so it's been almost 20 years that I've been out there. I've fortunately had the opportunity to learn, understand what is the scenario there in these countries. There's a huge interest among consumers in these countries, but in fact, few continents or few countries are okay to go with. But I think regulations exist in many countries for therapeutical formulations or for, products which are internally consumed. So the point is, most people know about Ayurveda, but they consider it as an alternative system. And some consider it as medicine. Some countries consider it as medicine. In spite of knowing it as a system that works, I think there's a lot of different approaches that countries have taken, or economic blocs have taken. So some countries' regulations are very stringent, and I think it's close to impossible to register.
Sure.
Some countries it's classified as supplements, not as Ayurveda. So internally consumed products are always difficult to get into, and the markets are more controlled, and the size, the scope is smaller. Though the consumers need it in large numbers, that's a fact. Personal care is a more easy approach to enter, because that is more not as difficult to register and to export or to import into any country, and to sell through platforms, because cosmetic is something which we take more lighter than internal consuming products. So that is what I feel I've seen abroad, and and medications, of course, a lot of external preparations are exported out of India and are being consumed in different countries. So in fact, if regulations are universalized, or if there is a universal regulation for Ayurveda, which is broadly compliable, I guess Ayurveda can grow by leaps and bounds. So I think that's where the obstacle lies. Though in reality, across the world, among consumers, Ayurveda is very much in demand. In fact, due to regulations, I don't think delivery is easy. Lot of misunderstandings still exist in countries about Ayurveda, having heavy metals and all that. So those clarity needs to be brought in, because I think it's not still defined properly. So I think there's a lot of confusion that prevails, or confusion that is there, that is actually impeding its growth. So there's some more work that we need to do, and I think once it is done, I think the markets are going to be very, very large for Ayurveda. across.
Fantastic. And where do you see the growth coming in India? Kerala and I would say this a couple of other southern states are already, they have a very strong tradition of Ayurveda practices and reaching out to Ayurveda first when it comes to building immunity. What is what is your insight when it comes to the rest of India as to where the growth is coming from for Ayurveda products?
See, Ayurveda, I think, would have to transform itself from being what it wants to be to what it has to be.
Right.
All right, because you are, in fact, in a country where 60% of the population is below 35 years. And those people would not know so much about Ayurveda as the older generations, who would respect it, who would like it, or who would have had some interactions with Ayurveda. So I think the challenge is going to be communicating to the 25-year-olds and the 35-year-olds about what is Ayurveda all about. I think so. For them it can be products, for them it can be herbs, for it can be So their perception of Ayurveda is going to be very fragmented, and it can be different from each other. So we need to have that universal image of what Ayurveda really is. I mean, it is known to the older generation; they believe it, they follow it, and we as a country believes in it. But we don't know about the new generation. So we need to create products which can connect with the younger generation.
Correct.
We need to create channels of communication which they could understand, rather than trying to make them understand what we know. So we should start talking their language by making product, services, and even communication that is acceptable or understandable to them. So they're not going to understand the lingo which was used earlier. We need to start communicating. So I think that's where the opportunity lies. Failing which, we're going to be a science which will remain. But when it comes to growth, we'll still always be understanding or talking about where is the growth going to come from.
Yeah.
Not that the growth is not there, just that the consumer of today is not able to relate or understand, and then you have a problem. So I think that's what every individual stakeholder has to work on. And if that is done, I think then we're talking about a population which is, how many billions it is. So, I mean, that's where the business lies. It's a large market internally too.
So, yeah, so we need to, kind of put our act together, and, the millennials and the generation X, Y, Z, whatever, we need to be geared for that. So finally, my question would be about education. Like, I understand that you have education vertical for, Ayurveda, Ayurveda charyas and training for them, as well as you have also spoken about entrepreneurship in Ayurveda. Would love to have a quick, your take on both these two aspects.
I think I can mix both, and I can also talk individually about it, because I think if there is a segment that India has not really stood up and utilized, I would say it is in the area of Ayurveda, because I guess there is a huge scope for skill development in that, because in this country has a lot of educated youth who needs to be skilled. I think the country has started on talking about skilling for the last many years. It has itself a department which can focus. But in fact, what we're missing is this is an area of skill development, which India can do to the world. It's going to be a huge scope, because, as I said, Ayurveda is getting very popular internationally. So I said restrictions apply to formulations which are internally consumed. But the wellness side of Ayurveda, the rejuvenation side of Ayurveda can be exported out of India and go into many countries. So that's a huge area of skilling. So simple things like, from personality courses to language courses to, procedures to, therapists to many things are in huge demand. And I would say these people can really earn a lot more money than probably a graduate can earn today. But the point is, are we missing an important point? And Ayurveda is so, it's too connected to India, because of the basic IPR is a lot connected to India. And, if you're not utilizing it, like yoga went, it will become a universal science, possibly where India would also say that, yeah, it originated in India, and we are also one of the providers. So I think it's time at least for us to take our space in the world of Ayurveda to say, hey, we can offer you something unique from this country, which can go to the world. So this is an opportunity which we have. And this is an opportunity which we take, can create huge employment opportunities. And this can skill this country's youth, and this can create huge income opportunities and a big addition of value to the economy for exports and for internal consumption. Number two. Number three is entrepreneurship in Ayurveda is an amazingly great area. But again, the question is, we're not connected with the younger generation to take Ayurveda as an entrepreneurial sector. I mean, I'm sure that I can see a lot of new products and innovations coming in from startups now, as probably about 5 years earlier. So at least that process is happening. But I think Ayurveda itself is an area where there's a huge scope for entrepreneurship development, huge scope for value creation, employment generation, and for wealth creation. The only aspect is we've not seen it as an opportunity as IT. And I think if IT can do well in India, Ayurveda should also do well in India, because it is very, very inherent to this country. It's very connected to the country, and there's a strength what we can leverage for us to take to the world. And I'm sure that there's a whole lot of value creation, because if you look at yoga is $1 trillion industry today.
Yes.
Ayurveda can be that tomorrow. So just that we need to look at it as an opportunity rather than as a challenge and as a problem what most of the others are trying to tell us. Because we talk about Ayurveda, people talk about clinical trials, standardization, and heavy methods. They don't talk about what it can do. Let's not claim things, but let's at least acknowledge what it can do. Like we can see that it does wonders for immunity, and immunity is big business. Sleep, Ayurveda can do wonders to help you sleep better. So if you take each such segment, one segment can be close to $1 billion. So if you can create 10 such segments, you're talking about $10 billion. But the question is, we see it as a whole, we confuse ourselves and we don't know what to do. And we finally say the science has got a problem. So we don't say that we have a problem in not seeing things, but we say that science has got a problem, that it's not proven, it's not got the documentation, and it's lacking something. And the ecosystem around us is going to tell us that Ayurveda has heavy metals, or Ayurveda, somebody lost something. So it's all a lot of bad propaganda that works around Ayurveda. I'm not saying all what is said is wrong, but yes. I'm trying to say all what is not said is also not right. So let's understand at least what is being said, let's analyze. If you think that it's bad, it's fine. If you think it's good, be it. But let's not try to influence each other to think that it's bad. That's all what I'm trying to say.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Actually, you're right that yoga is, a $1 trillion industry, and Ayurveda should have been, because not all of us can do yoga, but we all can, use the Ayurveda herbs to build our immunity.
Yeah.
So fantastic there. Just before we leave, would love to hear your vision about Bipha and Ayurveda generally. What's your vision?
I think as far as Bipha is concerned, it's going on a track on the third generation. And I think so far not deviated from the founding principles of the rational or founding principles of why the company was founded. I think so far we've been able to follow the thin line between the right and wrong for about 90 years. And I hope that thin line, as long as it's carried forward, the company will go forward. It will come in different colors, different shapes, different options and opportunities. But the basic ethos of the company, as long as it doesn't change, will take this, take this company forward to what is its intended objective. So we all just follow what we believe is right, and we try to do what is right. So that's all what we bother about. The rest of the thing follows us. I mean, if you do right, you get right, you go right. So we are not bothered about what happens. No. We will go forward. So that's the point. About Ayurveda, I think I think we have a wonderful set of people who works with us, who believes in the philosophy, who works with us night and day. So it's a good ecosystem, good stakeholder commitment. I think we are getting very good support from our consumers. So if you ask me, I'm happy. My consumers are happy. My stakeholders are happy. So we're a happy company. We're not sad. We're not somber. We're not frightened. We're not anxious. We are going on a journey, which we so far think that we've done okay. I'm not saying we've done right, but we're not done bad too. So we're on a journey, and I think so far there has been setbacks, there have been challenges, there have been opportunities, there's been strengths. So everything has happened in us. So we don't see anything bad or good in anything. Everything is good for good, and everything is for good. That's what we believe. So I guess if we keep the same pace, I mean, we've already acquired a lot of new technologies, which I've not mentioned because that's something that is yet to break up. So a lot of new product technologies are being brought in by us from other places. When you asked me about research and development, and I said I was very mum, because these are things that we are already in the process of acquiring. So there's a lot of collaboration happening and a lot of new things that we are in the process of developing, which we will start, declaring in between. About Ayurveda, I think it's a brilliant science, and though there is a lot of misunderstanding, it's a very highly misunderstood science in India, especially, and in some quarters outside. But it's a science which holds a lot of truth, and it is a science which is very well documented, not as per the modern clinical research terms, but as per the science. It's a documented science. So that's been the foundation on which we are all talking on. A lot more research, a lot more clinical validation, a lot more innovation, a lot more new discoveries will happen on this knowledge base that we have, which we possess. I think that's the future of Ayurveda. And with new verticals like services, with entrepreneurship, startups being built around the system, I think it's $1 trillion opportunity for the country and for the world too. I mean, it's something that we can share with every other country, every other citizen of this world. And I think the underlying factor is it's a true science. So let's look at what is true rather than look at what is wrong. And if you see the truth, you know where you have to go. You know where everybody has to. Then it's defined. It's defined as to what each one of us have to do, what a new person has to do, what an existing person has to do. So the role will be defined. So we need to follow the truth by believing in the truth, rather than trying to talk about what you don't know and what you know. Let's look at what it is and take it to what it has to be, is where I would like to put it. And I think as a country, India has a big strength in it. India has a huge population who believes in it. And I think this is one of the sciences which can go from India to the world. So we should invest, we should put our efforts, and we should see that this science is growing. Sorry.
Okay. So that's a fantastic vision of $1 trillion, Ayurveda business across the world and interconnecting, every citizen. So fantastic talking to you, Ajay, and we wish you all the very best on your journey. And please do stay safe and stay connected. And we wish to hear from you every time you have breaking news for us. And without that, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ritoo. I really enjoyed. I think you've been a great, you've done enough research, and thanks a lot for your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.